Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I figured I would show with you guys my eyeshadow palette collection. I did share with you guys my actual makeup collection in a past video. I will have it in my description box if you guys haven't seen it. So I kind of figured because I can't really do any of the clutterings, I can definitely show you guys my eyeshadow palette collection because you guys know I love my eyeshadows. So if you guys want to see my high-end and my drugstore eyeshadow palettes, and of course, let's get started. Alright you guys, so here is one of my eyeshadow palette collection drawers. This pretty much just houses all of my drugstore eyeshadow palettes. This drawer is primarily the ones that I really like love and enjoy. And then the one right underneath it is just like, I like these, but they're not like my go-to. I may have a few in here that's really my go-to that probably can't fit in here. But the majority of them is pretty much the ones that I reach for here and there, but it's not like my go-to palettes. And then the last drawer is going to primarily be my high-end eyeshadow palettes. I told you guys in my actual makeup collection video, I don't have that many for my high-end because I am a drugstore girl. It's just more affordable. So that's why it's on the very bottom because I don't really have that much. So starting off in here, the first one is going to be my Positions Butter eyeshadow palette. I did do a review on this eyeshadow palette. You guys, it's a really good palette. If you haven't tried it out, definitely get your hands on it. You do have more of your warm tone shadows in here. You could get it at the drugstore, so I do have that one. Next one is going to be my LA Girl Feverish eyeshadow palette. Again, I do have a review on my channel. Any videos that I have done with these palettes, I will link it down for you guys below. It's super affordable. You can get it at Ulta, and it's a really good palette. So again, I will link my video for that down below. I do have my Milani palettes. I have Gilded Desires. I have the Pure Passion. I have my Most Love Mattes, and I do have my Bold Obsessions. All right, so here are what the actual shadows look like for the Milani ones, and they're all really good. They're super pigmented, really pretty colors. I love the layout of each palette. The Most Love Matte is a really good all matte eyeshadow palette that I've actually used in the drugstore. So overall, they're really good eyeshadow palettes. So definitely get your hands on them if you haven't tried them before. All right, so moving back into my collection, I do have the Profusion Mixed Petals Peach eyeshadow palette. You can actually find these at Target. I've seen them at TJ Maxx as well, but it's a really good pigmented eyeshadow palette. You do get some nice size pens in here, so I do have that by Profusion. I also have the Morphe palette. It's going to be the Artistry palette. It's the N9, the 9N eyeshadow palette. Here is what this one looked like. That pop of color right there is so pretty. You guys know I love my warm tone colors right here on the side, plus the purples in there. It just really gives it a nice touch, so I do love that. Then I have the L'Oreal Paradise Enchanted eyeshadow palette. I still have not played with this palette for some reason. I just cannot get myself to play with it, but I still need to actually utilize it. And then I have my Sunkissed eyeshadow palette by Sistar Cosmetics, and I do have the Pink Blossom palette as well. Alright, so here's what the eyeshadow palettes by Sistar Cosmetics look like. This is going to be your Sunkissed eyeshadow palette right here. And then this one is going to be the Pink Blossom eyeshadow palette. They're super pigmented, really pretty colors. The colors in here pretty much complement each other really nicely, and I think it's a good like travel size palette. You do have your essential colors in both, so definitely check it out. I will link the video where you can see me use these as well in my description box. All right, so back in my eyeshadow palette collection, I do have the NYX Machinist eyeshadow palette. I did feature this in an actual tutorial as well. I do have some palettes by Bad Heavy Beauty. I have quite a bit of their palettes in my collection because I love their products. They're super good in quality and in price. They're just amazing products, and they do dupe other brands as well. So I do have the Supernova eyeshadow palette. I have the Solstice eyeshadow palette, and of course my favorite is going to be the Pretty Poison eyeshadow palette. This is actually like one of their own creations, so they actually didn't dupe anyone for this one. This is their own creation, and it's actually my favorite from them. Alright, so here you will see the Pretty Poison eyeshadow palette. It's a gorgeous palette. You have your pinks and your purples in here. Y'all, this palette pretty much have made me step outside of my comfort zone in terms of using color, because you guys know I'm a warm tone girl, but these colors in here, they're so complementary against my skin tone, and they actually don't scare me in terms of playing with color. So I love, like love this palette, and the pigmentation is out of this freaking world. Like, it's so good. The Solstice eyeshadow palette is more of your warm tone eyeshadow palette. It's going to be the dupe to the Natasha Denona palette as well as the Supernova eyeshadow palette. This one has your golds and your purples in here as well, but you also have some cool tone colors plus a mix of warm tone, whereas the Pretty Poison eyeshadow palette has just strictly purples and pinks. So all three are amazing, so freaking good. The outside packaging for the NYX Grind eyeshadow palette, it is so gorgeous. The detailing on here is amazing, and then here is the actual inside of the eyeshadow palette. So again, it's a really pretty palette in terms of color. You do have a nice layout. It's not my favorite eyeshadow palette from them, but at the same time it's not horrible either. So that is the NYX Grind eyeshadow palette. Alright, so back in my collection, I do have, again, my Bad Habit Beauty is going to be the Athena eyeshadow palette. I also have the Aphrodite palette by Bad Habit Beauty as well. And I do have my Carly by Belle BH Cosmetic collab eyeshadow palette. This palette is a really good palette. I do have the first one. So you do have your eyeshadows on top and you have your highlighters on the bottom. These are really good highlighter shades, especially for like your woman of color, like the two at the end right here. They're really pigmented and so good. So I love the packaging. It's so sleek and it looks girly. So I love this one a lot. All right, here you do have the Aphrodite palette and the Athena palette. These are going to be the dupes to the Huda Beauty eyeshadow palette. I don't own her actual eyeshadow palettes. I just got the dupes. So I do have a video on this one. It's such a pretty eyeshadow palette. It's super pigmented. This color right here was the only one that gave me a problem. It's called Darren. It gave me a problem in the actual tutorial, but I did make it work. But besides that, pigmentation is out of this world. And then Aphrodite is just a really good palette overall as well. That color Adore is kind of chunky, but for the most part, it's a really good dupe to the Huda Beauty eyeshadow palette. So again, Aphrodite and Athena. Alright, back here I do have the Bad Habit Beauty Artistry 2 eyeshadow palette. It's going to be the dupe to the KKW and Mario eyeshadow palette. I also have the original Artistry palette, and I also have the Inferno palette by Bad Habit Beauty, and I do have the Aurora palette by Bad Habit Beauty as well. I told you guys I love the eyeshadow palettes. I pretty much got all of them, besides a few, but I do have the bulk of them. Alright, so here is the Artistry 2 eyeshadow palette. Again, it's going to be the dupe for the KKW and Mario eyeshadow palette. Again, back here is the Aurora palette. You also have the Inferno palette. That's the dupe to the Urban Decay Naked Heat eyeshadow palette. And then you do have the original Artistry palette. Alright, moving back into my eyeshadow palette, I do have the Morphe and Jaclyn Hill Ring the Alarm eyeshadow palette. I think everyone have pretty much seen what this eyeshadow palette looked like, so I do have this one. And of course, my lovely Makeup Revolution little collection right here. I have pretty much every single one. So this one is going to be, the first one is going to be the Revolution Reloaded Iconic Fever eyeshadow palette. You can get it at Ulta, so here is what that one looks like, and these only retail for $7, so it's super affordable. I do have this one right here, super pigmented, so gorgeous. It's going to be the Neutrals 3 eyeshadow palette. Again, you can get it at Ulta, retail only for $7. The pigmentation is so good, you guys, so definitely give it a try. For $7, it's bomb.com. My favorite is going to be this one right here. You guys know I love my warm tone eyeshadows, and this pretty much gives me everything all in one. This one is going to be the Neutrals 2 eyeshadow palette. So if you are a warm tone kind of girl or guy, definitely pick this one up. I'll probably recommend this one out of all of them because it's just a really bomb everyday eyeshadow palette. This one is going to be another one. This one is going to be the Reloaded Iconic Vitality eyeshadow palette. It's definitely not my favorite, but at the same time it's not bad either. I just kind of feel like some of the colors tend to repeat themselves in the other eyeshadow palette. That's why I feel like this one is definitely the one I would consider buying out of like all of them, because the palettes tend to kind of repeat themselves sometimes. This is going to be the basic matte eyeshadow palette. So just like your go-to matte shadows, you do get a black and a nice brown in here as well. You also have some like cool tone colors and like some warm tone colors. So if you have a palette that doesn't have some good matte shadows, you can definitely pick this one up because it's going to be an all matte eyeshadow palette, which is good to have on hand. Next one is going to be the Reloaded Velvet Rose eyeshadow palette. This one is a really good eyeshadow palette, and you pretty much get a black in all of their eyeshadow palettes, and their blacks are actually really good and pigmented, so don't underestimate the blacks in their eyeshadow palette. This one to me is more different because you don't have so many warm tone colors in here compared to the other ones that kind of repeat themselves. You kind of get some newer warm tone colors in this one, plus a few cool tone colors as well. This one is going to be the Fierce as Fire eyeshadow palette. I did do a review on this palette on my channel as well. I do like the actual eyeshadows. Only thing is I don't like these like pen sizes. It's just hard to work with for me personally. But for the most part, it's a really nice eyeshadow palette. And then my last one is going to be, this one is going to be more of like your purple shadows. It's going to be the Visionary eyeshadow palette. Comparing this to the Bad Habit Beauty Poison eyeshadow palette, I would prefer the one by Bad Habit Beauty more over this one. I really had high hopes for this one, but it didn't really blow me away. It's not horrible, but if I had to say just get one purple eyeshadow palette, I would definitely say get the one by Bad Habit Beauty because that one is just on a whole nother level. All right, last few eyeshadow palettes for this drawer. This is going to pretty much be like my Profusion and Morphe eyeshadow palettes. This one is going to be the Profusion Sienna's eyeshadow palette. Y'all, this palette is so freaking amazing. It's going to be the dupe to the Sephora eyeshadow palette. Y'all, this palette is so pigmented, so affordable, easy to blend out, easy to use, beginner friendly. Everything you need plus more is in this actual eyeshadow palette, and the brush that comes with it is a really good quality eyeshadow brush. You can get Profusion at Target, so definitely check them out because this palette is by far their best eyeshadow palette to date, in my opinion. So definitely check out Sienna's if you was to get any of them, because they do have like other ones like in this actual packaging, but for me, Sienna's is definitely the best one. All right, next one is going to be the Profusion Rose Gold Look eyeshadow palette. You do get some actual eyeshadows and highlighters in this one. I haven't played with this one yet, so I can't really give you my opinion. So when I do play with it, I will definitely keep you guys posted on it, but I do have this one. I also have the Profusion Pro Pigment eyeshadow palette. You do have a nice pretty pop of pink in here, and you also have some really pretty like shimmer shades as well. This one I haven't played with either, so I need to actually use it because that pink is definitely a spring and summertime color. Plus you have some really pretty purples in here as well, so I need to actually dabble into this one with spring being here now. And then the last one is going to be the Chocolates palette. I did play with this one, and I actually wasn't a fan of it because the colors in here was kind of chunky and hard to work with, and some of the mattes were not that pigmented, so I actually need to like play with some other colors in this palette because the ones that I actually played with, I was not a fan of it. So this one is my least favorite from them thus far. All right, moving on, I just have 3 wonderful palettes by Morphe. All right, so I do have the 350 eyeshadow palette and I have the 350M. This is pretty much going to be the all matte eyeshadow palette version to the 350. This one do have a few shimmer shades in here, so if you love an all matte palette, the 350M is that palette, but the 350 does have just the regular mattes and shimmer shades in here. I honestly don't really use these as much as I used to back in the past, and looking at it now, I'm just kind of like, oh, but I do have these 2 palettes by Morphe, and of course the infamous Jaclyn Hill eyeshadow palette. I'm not going to feature that one because you guys already know what that looks like. So that's pretty much my first drawer. All right, moving on into this actual next drawer. I'm not going to show you guys every single palette individually because I don't want it to be a long video. But starting off, I do have my e.l.f. Matte for Matte eyeshadow palette. It's going to be an all matte eyeshadow palette. The colors on the box is pretty much the same colors on the inside, so it's more like your colorful spring matte eyeshadow palette. So it's definitely a good one to have in terms of creating some nice matte colorful looks that require some pops of colors. I do have this by Rimmel London. It's going to be the Magnific Eyes shadow palette. This one is called Keep Calm and Wear Gold. So I don't play with this one anymore because I don't like palettes that have these single strips in it. I just don't care for it, but I still have it in my collection. Next, I have the 24 Karat Gold eyeshadow palette. It's going to be a collab palette. I guess I could show you guys this one. This palette is going to be by Amber Shows Cosmetics. So it's going to be the all shimmer eyeshadow palette. It's actually a good shimmer shade. These are actually some good shimmer shades. So if you love like your golds, your silvers, your bronze golds, you do have all of those in here, plus a nice matte black. So again, it's by Amber Shoals Cosmetic. It's going to be the 24 karat gold eyeshadow palette. All right, moving back into my collection, you do see some Wet n Wilds right here. I do have the Rosé in the Air eyeshadow palette. It's really a nice warm tone eyeshadow palette. And then I also have Not a Basic Peach. And again, it's a really good affordable eyeshadow palette. It's really pigmented, but you have to build up the intensity of the actual shadows. And then you have to wet the brush to get the shimmer shades to pop. But it's a really good eyeshadow palette for the price. You guys know Wet n Wild is really affordable. So I do like the Not a Basic Peach and of course Rosé in the Air. Such a good eyeshadow palette. All right, next I do have the Temptress eyeshadow palette. I just did a video on this one. It's going to be the dupe to the Anastasia Sultry eyeshadow palette. It's by Alter Ego Cosmetics, so I will have the link in my description box so you guys can see the actual palette in action. And then I have one of my other favorites by Bad Habit Beauty. Is going to be the Mystere eyeshadow palette. I already did a review and demo on this eyeshadow palette as well. It's going to be the dupe to the Pat McGrath eyeshadow palette. Here's what the inside looks like. Y'all, this palette is probably one of their best work next to the Pretty Poison eyeshadow palette, because you can tell the quality of these are definitely so much better compared to the other palettes. The black is ridiculously insane. There's not as much fallout compared to the other eyeshadow palettes, and these does not require you to wet the brush to get the intensity. They're already intensified on their own, but when you wet the brush, it's like on a whole nother level. So definitely love this one a lot. And here I do have some other Bad Habit Beauty eyeshadow palettes. I have the Retro Love eyeshadow palette. So I do have this one, and I do have the Aftershock eyeshadow palette. It's going to be more like your colorful eyeshadow palette, so I do have this one as well. Here's what the Retro Love eyeshadow palette looks like. So again, it's going to be the dupe to the Subculture palette by Anastasia. I do have the e.l.f. Matte for Matte eyeshadow palette right here, and I also have this one as well. This one is called Summer Breeze. This one is just called Matte. Does anyone remember the L'Oreal Palette Nude 1 and 2 eyeshadow palette? Like, I still have these in my collection. God knows how many years later, but I still have it in my collection. So I do have La Palette Nude 1 and La Palette Nude 2. La Palette Nude 2 have like a few like purple shades in here, and Nude 1 is just strictly your nude eyeshadows. I do have the Sugar eyeshadow palette by Face Candy. I have yet to use this freaking palette. It's supposed to be the dupe to the Too Faced Sweet Peach eyeshadow palette. And I do have the Profusion Bare Eyes eyeshadow palette. I haven't used this one either. It's more like a neutral eyeshadow palette, so I do have these two as well. All right, for the Hard Candy eyeshadow palette, I do have this one right here. This one is going to be called the Look Pro eyeshadow palette. You can actually get it at Walmart, and I must say it's not a bad eyeshadow palette, but I had kind of like high expectations for it, but it's still a really good palette in terms of having in your collection from a drugstore option. So it's not bad, but it's not like the best either. So I do have that one. I also have a Makeup Revolution. It's going to be the Iconic Pro 1 eyeshadow palette. Here is what it looks like. It's actually the dupe to the Lorac eyeshadow palette. I did use this on my channel already, so that's what that one looks like. And I got it from TJ Maxx, all of $4.99. So TJ Maxx does have Makeup Revolution eyeshadow palettes, so definitely check them out for some good palettes. I do have the BH Cosmetics Desert Oasis eyeshadow palette. I told you guys I got this from Kohl's. You do have some eyeshadows and highlighters in here. And it's a really good affordable palette from them. Here is what the eyeshadow palette looked like. So you do have some pretty pops of colors, and then you do have your highlighters on the side right here as well. So eyeshadows right here, highlighters right here on the side. All right, next I have the Bad Habit Beauty Midsummer Night eyeshadow palette. This one is actually, I want to say it's actually a dupe to the Lorac eyeshadow palette as well. I might be wrong, but here's what the inside looked like. Here is the actual inside of the eyeshadow palette. I have not touched this eyeshadow palette at all because once I actually got it in front of me, I was like so uninspired by it. So I bought it, but I never used it because it just does not blow me away at all. All right, next I have the Profusion Wanderlust eyeshadow palette. I need to use this eyeshadow palette because it's so pretty for spring and summertime. You have so many pops of colors in here, and it's also a really pretty palette for like the holiday season as well. So I need to go ahead and dive in here because you have some really pretty like pinks and purples and teals and blue in here. So I need to actually play with this really soon. And then I also have the Beauty Superstar eyeshadow palette by Profusion as well. You do have a blush, highlighters, and like bronzers in here. And you have your eyeshadows right here. These pan sizes are so huge. You have a brush. You have, I want to say that's probably like a lip topper. And you also have a eye pencil right here. So here is the palette. So pretty. The packaging is kind of bulky, but I still think it's so cute. So I actually don't mind the packaging at all either. To the side, I do have these eyeshadow palette by LA Colors. I did feature these in my Dollar General video for the eyeshadow palettes. They're not bad for $3. They do require some work and some finessing, but for $3 it's not bad either. I have these two eyeshadow palette by Academy of Color. This one is going to be the Mulberry eyeshadow palette, and then I do have the Peach Scented eyeshadow palette. You can find Academy of Color at Kohl's, and they remind me of like dupes to the Kylie Cosmetic eyeshadows. These actually aren't like the best at all. They require so much work and building up, like a lot, and they actually don't have any fallout, which had me excited, but like no pigment come off on the brush either, so I still have them though. I also have the Essence Beautiful eyeshadow palette. I got it at Ulta, of course. These shades are so pretty. They're more on the neutral side, but you still have your orange and black in here, and I actually put with it already. And for the Essence brand, it's actually a good eyeshadow palette coming from their brand. All right, moving on, I do have some more palettes by Bad Habit Beauty. I have the After Hours eyeshadow palette, and I have the After Dark eyeshadow palette as well. All right, this one is going to be the After Hours eyeshadow palette. This one is going to be the After Dark eyeshadow palette. So you do get some really like pops of colors. It's going to be like more like your warm tone shadows. This is going to be more of like your pinks and browns. So they're really good. You do get quite a bit of fallout with these palettes, but they're super pigmented as well. However, because there's so much, like when I say so much fallout, I actually hit pan on this one really fast, but I honestly only used it maybe all of 3 times. But because it's so much fallout, like a lot, I already hit pan on that color right there. All right, next I do have these two palettes. I have the Profusion Bold eyeshadow palette. I actually got it at Walgreens for $5, and these colors in here are so pretty. They do blend out really nicely. However, you have to build up the actual intensity of the color, but I still like it for $5 though. And I have the Profusion Mixed Metals eyeshadow palette. The Profusion Mixed Metals eyeshadow palette. You do get a highlighter, a blush, and the shadows right here. These sizes are so tiny. You can get it at Target, but I haven't played with this yet either. But yeah, I do have this one as well. Moving along back here, I have some Wet n Wild. I have the Naked Truth eyeshadow palette. It's a really good matte eyeshadow palette. You do get your basic matte colors, and I do have the NYX Cosmetic Metals. I told you guys these shimmer shades are so freaking intense. I actually used, I want to say it was this color or that color as a highlighter on my face. It was so intense and pretty. So it's actually probably like one of my favorite shimmer palettes from them because it's so good. And when the brush is wet, it's even better. I have the Cute AF eyeshadow palette by ColourPop. I did use it on my channel already. Here's what it looks like. Such a beautiful warm tone eyeshadow palette. I wish there was a mirror on here, but it's not. But you do get some nice pigmented eyeshadows, and I just think it's really pretty. So I do have this one by them. Then I have the Oakland matte eyeshadow palette, and I do have the Face Candy Milkshake eyeshadow palette, and I also have the Beauty Creations Irresistible eyeshadow palette. This one is going to be the Beauty Creations eyeshadow palette right here. Again, really pretty warm tone shadows in here. I want to say I played with this probably once, so I actually have to use it again because I honestly don't remember how I felt about it, but I do have this one. And again, I do have the Face Candy one as well. Such really good, nice pan sizes. Really pretty colors. Love the layout. You have your really dark brown, you have a black, you have a purple, a really pretty like pop of color. So I do have this one. Again, it's the Milkshake eyeshadow palette, and this is going to be the Irresistible eyeshadow palette. And then I do have this one over here by Oakland Cosmetic. It's going to be the dupe to the, I want to say it's the Lime Crime eyeshadow palette. It's pretty much all mattes on the bottom, and you do have 2 shimmer shades on the top, plus these are matte. I do like it. It's really pigmented. I love these 3 colors right here for a matte shade plus that one. So I do have this palette as well. I got it off of Shop Hush. These I all got off of Shop Hush website. All right, here I do have this eyeshadow palette by Beauty Treats. It's going to be the Smoky eyeshadow palette. I haven't used this eyeshadow palette yet, so I can't even tell you if it's good or not, but I do have this one. And then right here, I do pretty much just have a bunch of single shadows and just some like glitter liquid liners. So all of those are right in this container. You guys, so this is going to be my bottom drawer. It's going to be all of my high-end eyeshadow palettes. Again, I don't have that much because I just like my drugstore products. So starting off, I do have this quad by Anastasia. It's going to be their single shadows. I did create this actual palette myself. It was a couple years ago, but it's pretty much going to be like your neutral warm tone shadows in here. And she still has the single shadows at Sephora, so you can still create your own palette if you want to. I also have the Anastasia and Emery Z collab. Actually, my first Anastasia eyeshadow palette purchase, and it's definitely still one of my favorites. I pretty much love all of Anastasia's eyeshadows because they're really good in pigmentation, quality, and price. So you definitely get your money's worth with this palette. And this is what the inside of the palette look like. I just love all of these colors. Glisten, Caramel, Morocco. They're just really pretty colors in here. Next is going to be the Lorac Unzipped eyeshadow palette, and I also have the Lorac Unzipped Gold eyeshadow palette, and I guess I'll show you guys what these look like right quickly. The original Lorac Unzipped palette, that's going to be the Lorac Unzipped Gold, and I will say this, they're not bad eyeshadows, but they're not my favorite by them either because they're so hard to get the intensity of the actual pigment of the colors. So these palettes do require some work, but they're not bad either. All right, next I do have the Anastasia Riviera eyeshadow palette. I just did a tutorial on this eyeshadow palette on my channel. I also have the Pure Cosmetic Visionary eyeshadow palette. Love, love, love this eyeshadow palette. Again, I just did a video on my channel on this palette as well. And I do have my Ballet Boss Pro Like a Boss eyeshadow palette. It's actually my first palette from them, and actually my only palette from them, if I can get it open. This is what the inside of the palette look like. It's super pigmented, really pretty colors. Some colors do require your brush being wet for the shimmer shades, but for the most part, it's a really good quality eyeshadow palette. Here I do have my Sephora Pro eyeshadow palette. It's going to be the warm eyeshadow palette. You guys know I love my warm tone eyeshadows. Then I have the Pure Etienne eyeshadow palette. I actually got it from Kohl's. It's not a bad palette, but it's not my favorite either. Here's what the palette looked like in terms of the colors on the box. This is what the inside of the palette look like. I just love this pop of blue in here. It's a shimmer shade, and I love, of course, the warm tone for the orange. Definitely my preference. So it's a mixture of like warm tone and cool tone colors in here, plus a few neutral colors as well. Back here, I do have my Lorac Mega Pro eyeshadow palette. And I also have the original Lorac Pro eyeshadow palette. Y'all, I killed this eyeshadow palette. As you can see, I have hit pan on a few colors in here. This is by far the best eyeshadow palette from them that I own. Because again, I do have the Pro, I do have the 2 on zip, but this one is by far the best one to date. Moving back in here, I do have the Chocolate Bar eyeshadow palette by Too Faced, and I also have the Shade and Light palette by Kat Von D. It's just a all matte eyeshadow palette. Let me show you guys what that looks like. Here is what the palette looks like on the inside. Again, just an all matte eyeshadow palette. Back here, I do have the Kat Von D. It's going to be the Monarch eyeshadow palette. It's supposed to be like the warm tone version of it, but you do get like some cool tone and neutral colors in here as well. I honestly did not play with that palette that much, to be honest with you, and I don't really care for it, but I still have it in my collection. Then I have the Urban Decay Original Naked. I do have the Naked too. And then I also have the Unzip palette by Lorac. Is going to be the Ocean Sunset eyeshadow palette. This eyeshadow palette is definitely not their best. The green shade is not good at all. Like, it's just not a good palette, but I still have it. But yeah, it's not a good palette. Like, don't waste your money. Next, I do have this palette by Cargo. It's going to be the You Had Me at Aloha eyeshadow palette. It's a really pretty palette. The colors do need some work in terms of like building up. And I kind of feel like, to me, the colors don't complement each other all the way, but it's still a good palette nonetheless by Cargo. So do have that, and I love the packaging on that palette. Next, I have the Smashbox Ablaze eyeshadow palette. Just a warm tone eyeshadow palette by Smashbox. Love the packaging on it. This is what the inside look like. So if you are a warm tone lover, it's pretty much a good travel size eyeshadow palette. You have everything you need in terms of warm tone eyeshadows right in here. I do have my Bare Minerals Gen Nude Latte eyeshadow palette. I also have a review on my channel on this palette. Told you guys I love the packaging, love the quality of the actual eyeshadows in here as well. This is what the eyeshadow palette looks like. Y'all, this gold color called Firefly is so pretty on the lids, and also as a highlighter is so gorgeous. And these like matte browns is just your go-to colors. Like, this palette is amazing, so definitely get it if you can get your hands on it. I actually seen it at TJ Maxx, and I was like, what, already? So you can get it at Sephora or TJ Maxx, because I saw TJ Maxx had it as well. I also have the Tartelette Toasted eyeshadow palette. Again, another warm tone eyeshadow palette. I have the Too Faced Just Peachy Matte eyeshadow palette. It's going to be an all matte eyeshadow palette. And you guys know I love a good matte palette. This is what the color scheme looks like for the eyeshadow palette. This part over here is definitely like my favorite. I can do without these two right here, but everything else I love in this palette. Super pigmented, easy to blend out, and the intensity of the palette in terms of the shadows are out of this world. Amazing. My last palette is going to be this one. It's going to be the Makeup Forever Lustrous Shadow Palette. Again, some really pretty colors in here. That black is really nice. The colors do require you to like put in some work in terms of like getting the intensity of the actual shadows, but for the most part, it's still a good palette for Makeup Forever. And then on my vanity, I do keep a few other eyeshadow palettes. I just have the Modern Renaissance by Anastasia. I do have the Soft Glam back here. I have the Novena palette, and I have the Urban Decay Born to Run eyeshadow palette back here. And then I do have these. It's going to be the City Mini palette by Maybelline Makeup Shayla. And I do have the Collab palette because I just love the warm tone colors in here. These colors in here are great transition colors and really pretty colors for the lid, so I do keep those in there. And then I also have this one by Profusion. I did feature this in I want to say it was like a favorites video. Again, I love the mattes in here. The shimmers aren't my favorites, but the mattes alone make up for the palette. And it only cost me $3.99 at TJ Maxx. I do have the one by e.l.f. It's going to be the Velvet Touch eyeshadow palette. Got it at TJ Maxx for $4.99. Going to be the inside of the palette in terms of the actual colors. I haven't even used it yet, so that's why I have it on my vanity, so I can actually put it to use. So I do have it. Love the packaging on it. And I do have these last two. It's going to be the Maybelline City Mini palette in High Rise Sunset, and I do have the other one is going to be the one called Blush Avenue. I still haven't used these yet, so I do have it on my vanity so I can actually play with it. And that's pretty much my eyeshadow palette collection. All right, hope you guys enjoyed my video. If you do, please be sure to give it a huge thumbs up. Hope you guys enjoy and see my actual eyeshadow collection. I know it's not the biggest collection, which is fine because it's actually more manageable for me. I think it's more, I don't want to call it realistic, but it's more realistic for your actual makeup lover who loves makeup because it's not that much. But nonetheless, hope you guys enjoyed my video. If you do, please be sure to give it a huge thumbs up, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye, guys.